I'm here with Nick Willie this morning, from, all the way up from Del Rio and Acuna down in Mexico, hanging out for a wedding this week. And so I was like, gotta grab this guy to hang out and talk a little bit about serving, especially with that kind of, you're good at all these areas, but serving is kind of your specialty, I think. And so small groups, what we're looking at today is we're looking at Matthew 25. We're looking at the king and kind of at the end of time, putting people on his left and on his right. You guys will have time to read the passage, Matthew 25, starting at verse 31. And yeah, we're gonna share a little bit about that. What the king does is that he really says to the people, you guys, you're righteous. I'm going to put you on my right. And he says, you're going to be blessed because when you saw people, you loved them, you fed them, you clothed them. And he says, and they're like, when did we see that?
Yeah.
And he says, you saw me. The way you treated those people is how you treated me. And that's when you saw me, is when you saw those people.
Yeah.
And then the opposite for the other people, right? And so this was a surprise to these people as they're going through this process. It's a little crazy. And they hear God say this and they're like, what are you talking about? When did we see you? I'm curious for you Nick. Why do you think that they're surprised?
I think they're surprised because they're like, they don't see God as the people who are sick and dirty or in need of help. And so when God put them, and God says that I am the weak and the poor, and yet you help me, that's who I am in them, and you're helping them. And so I think it kind of shocks the human being brains of ours to realize, like, wait, God's in those kind of people, but yet he's there. And so I think that's kind of cool to realize, like, it's almost like being humble, saying like man, God, like, you're everywhere,
right?
And yet also, like, we try to do as much as we can, and that's why you're saying that we're the ones who go in and help the ones who are in need,
right? So
what do you think of that?
Dude, it's a good answer. It's good. I'm curious for you, and this is where I jump around and I deviate from the sheet, because I'm curious, what situations, without talking about specific types of people, what situations do you have a tough time viewing people as like God's children and created in the image of God?
I think one of the times is when they abuse the system of, like, I just think that, like, people who purposely do things that they know they're not doing correctly, and I think it's really hard to, like, man, those are God's children, and yet, like, they're doing things that are illegal,
right?
And or things that, like, how are they not thinking godly, or, like,
right.
So that's kind of like, I'm like, man, I still got to remember those are people of God, and I'm like, but yet, like, I want to strangle them in some ways. Like, why are you not listening? why are you doing this differently? So I think that's really hard when you see that, but yet you still gotta be that person, help them and get them back on the right track.
Right. So. I think so often So one thing I love about this is that it's not necessarily just about the actions.
Yeah.
As much as it's about, like, your viewpoint and your understanding of who that person is.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's really easy for me at times. You talk about homeless people, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to be like, oh, this is probably your fault, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't work hard. Maybe you could get a job over here. You could do this thing, right?
Yep.
And maybe that's not the situation at all, and it's just my sinful viewpoint. And maybe sometimes they did have a part in it.
Exactly, yeah.
But for me to view them in either of those situations as, like, not created in God's image, not God's dearly beloved, right? And the issue isn't that I just need to, like, start acting like they are, right? Obviously I do here. I need to take care of them and love them and support them and feed them and clothe them and that kind of stuff. But I also need to view them in that way.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, I guess I'm curious. I'm thinking, why don't I sometimes? And I think you're already hitting on it a little bit. And I think mine's similar to you. I have a really tough time sometimes being patient with what I kind of consider are mean people.
Yeah.
Right? If you're willing to hurt somebody else, it's really hard for me to love them and view them as a child of God,
Yeah,
kind of.
it is.
I'm curious for you, how do you change your viewpoint to seeing them as a child of God? So these people who are doing illegal things, mean people, whatever. How do you kind of get back to the spot of like, okay, I see them now as God's child? What does it take?
You know, it depends on, because you're definitely right about like that first person view, and you're like, they've already done this.
Right.
It's really hard to get out of and going, like, it's the view of like saying, like, you never read a book by its cover.
Right.
You got to get to know them. You got to see them. You
Right.
got to talk to them. And
Oh,
so,
man. Yeah.
And so
got me.
that's what I think the biggest part is if I'm willing, and I know I'm sinful and just kind of give up and walk my other way.
Yeah.
But if I really wanted to build that relationship and see who they really are, I mean, the biggest thing is to go up and talk to them, because probably 60% of the time, they're actually really good people who are in need of help,
Right.
and they just need that guidance, and that's who we are. That's what we're supposed to be doing,
Right.
and that's the big thing. I was just talking with high schoolers yesterday night, and the topic was go big, and challenge yourself. And I think that's for us to realize is like we need to challenge ourselves to go and open that book and see who they really are.
Yeah. So that, man, you hit something, as you're talking about there, that, that we start seeing them kind of as good people, right?
Yeah.
And that I think sometimes we tend to see them as bad people. And for me, I think that importance of seeing them as on the same level as me.
Yep.
Right. And hopefully over time for me, it takes less work where I actually don't have to get to know you that well.
Yeah.
Just because I know through my devotional time, my prayer time, my experience with other people, I just know that even if you're being a complete jerk to me and that's all I see, I still know you're more than that.
Yeah.
And I know that you're not better than me and not worse than me, and that your value is equal to mine. Right? So if your value is equal to mine, and you just hit it, right? How do I start making moves to help your life be better, right? How do I start showing Christ's love to you, even if it might be, whenever you're showing love, it's sacrificial, right? Whether you're sacrificing security, safety, convenience, whatever, time, so maybe instead of watching TV, I'm loving somebody, or maybe I'm giving up my money for retirement, and I'm nervous about that to do it, or maybe I'm legitimately giving up my safety and I'm going to some dangerous part of the world in order to love people. But it's not going to happen until you see, I think, people as like the same value as yourself, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Well, I think the biggest thing is you need to understand who you are, and so the biggest thing is pray. Pray for yourself to be humble and to realize that everyone is equal. Everyone has that chance. You should just assume that there's something in there that can be modified or guided, but you don't want to assume that they're all like in trouble. But you also just got to realize, like, instead of trying to be the negative side, be the positive side. But also, I think that's the big part is you just need to have God trust, or you got to trust in God, and make sure you're prepared and you're willing and you're understanding where the situation you're going to. I think it's important for me when I go into a situation like that is that I don't want to assume, and I need to pray and just say, like, God, like, give me the words, give me the guidance, don't give me the face that, like, oh, you're that person, and realize, like, that these are God's children, and if they need to be clothed or they need to be fed, like, let me be able to provide what God wants us to do. So
so two questions I'm curious about. One, how do you see a connection between like this and your devotional life, right? Which you were just talking about a little bit, but I'm curious if you can ever, so I know there's a couple things about me. If I don't do like devotional life and prayer for like 2 weeks, so the things start to shift a little bit where I'm tired, maybe I can't sleep as much. I tend to hold grudges a lot quicker when I'm not in my devotional life, so I can see like trends, right?
Yeah.
I tend to, if I'm going to Aldi, or if I'm going to Schnucks or something like that, and I'm like, devotional life is good, I'm smiling at people.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people. I'm saying, "How's your day?"
Yeah.
If my devotional life, and by devotional life, I'm just mean prayer life, and reading scripture and actually kind of like talking to God, and not just kind of going through motions. that I tend to do all that. But when I'm not in that, I tend to like, today I'm just gonna put in my headphones,
Yep.
and I'm just gonna go through the
My
motions.
own
And
world.
that's not a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But like, I know that's not what I want to do on a regular basis. It's not me when I'm at my best.
Yep.
I guess is what I'm saying. And so how do you see that connection between your devotional life, your prayer life, reading scripture, and then how you treat people?
Yeah, I think it's definitely it shows in my life, because I know I'm a missionary. I work with a lot of people, a lot of families, and I can tell the attitude of mine when I'm kind of slacking on the reading or the prayer, where how my ministry, it becomes a job for me.
Right.
And I
know.
lose focus and say like, hey, like, oh, you're just another family. Okay,
Right.
you're another team. Okay, how about why are like this family is in need? Like,
Right.
I just read a good devotion about like loving,
Right.
and just, no matter what, love your neighbors and
Right.
treat them with love, and
Right.
or a devotion about like, hey, like we're all equal,
Right.
and just gives that reminder. I mean,
Right.
obviously we know a lot of stories in the Bible, but yet
Right.
we need those reminders in our life. We need those prayers. We need those conversations with God. Excuse me. And so, just for me, I do tell, because, like I said, like ministry for us is a job.
Right.
And it's a very very honorable gift that we can be able to see God's work in
Right.
the people and the families and all the
Yeah.
pastors. But we still have those moments. I'm like, man, like I'm just doing another chore around the job site or something like
Right.
that. But
All the time.
oh yeah, and so, but yeah, I really do try to focus and remember and remind myself in devotions, like why I'm here.
Yeah.
And if I focus that I'm doing this for God, man,
Right.
it's a gorgeous day. It's,
Right.
no matter what kind of weather I'm working
Right.
with, whatever kind of family I'm working with,
Right.
I'm like, this is a glorifying day. Like this is an absolutely fun day to do it, because I remind myself. So in my day, reading the Bible every day helps me reset myself.
Yeah. You know this was hitting me a little bit as you're talking, because so when I was in Defiance, I would play basketball with when I was in Defiance, Ohio, church I was at before this. Defiance is small all the time, but we'd play ball, and every Tuesday night at the church, and we just all sorts of just random people came, right?
Yeah.
And I loved them, honestly. I love those. I love playing with people like that, and just kind of playing some street ball, and but they would show up, and then some people would kind of have this thing like, don't swear at church, right? 'Cause,
Yeah.
you can't swear here. And in my mind, it was like, for the people who were holding themselves to that standard,
Yeah.
well, I'll swear out there, but not here.
Mhm.
It was a little weird to me, this idea that that like at church you're on and you're a follower
Yeah.
of Christ,
Yep.
but outside the church you can do whatever you want. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's a similar thing with serving, where it's like, okay, when I'm Zach Teasdale, when I'm working at Webster Gardens and
Yeah.
I'm working in association with Webster Gardens, I'm gonna love people and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and I'll smile, and then I'll go home and go to the grocery store, go to these other spots. I use the grocery store for a lot of metaphors, by the way.
That's your
but
place.
I'm sure I do other things. But when I go to these other places, it's fine for me to be grumpy or negative
Yeah.
or whatever, right? And to start to realize that no, I'm this follower of Christ, and
Yeah.
you hit on this earlier, to know your identity,
Yeah.
right? That I'm going to be aware of who I am all the time,
Yep.
and also I'm going to forgive myself because of who I am,
Mhm.
right? I'm not going to think that other people are better than me, and I'm a terrible person either,
Yeah.
because I'm forgiven, I'm loved,
Yep.
and they're also loved in every situation. So I'm curious about this too. The next thing is, how do you? So you've clearly taken steps to serve God more intentionally.
Yeah.
Right. You were doing some cool things in the States, right? And you were doing, you had different jobs and you were working and things like that. And you were like, hey, I think God is kind of calling me to do something different. We're not saying y'all need to go be missionaries, okay? But what kind of led you to taking this step? How did it kind of go from, oh yeah, I think I should serve, to, no, I'm going to serve?
So actually, my youth pastor here, before he left, Pastor Eric Gledhill, I asked him that question right before he left, because I asked him, like, hey, like, you love it here. You're great at what you do here.
Yep.
And loves you.
Right.
Your family loves you here.
Right.
You're,
Yeah, I heard so many stories.
Exactly, right? As and just the relationship, like you're great here. Why are you leaving, Pastor Eric? Like, why leave something that you're comfortable with?
Right.
And he says, Nick, I mean, everyone needs to challenge their faith.
Yeah.
And I feel like called to do a challenge, and that means I need to go where I'm challenged, where I'm called, and I can't be saying no to God when there's a calling, and I need to challenge my faith.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was an associate pastor, and then he moved up to Michigan to be a senior pastor
I know.
in a small church. And I'm like, man, that must be really difficult because
Right.
you have now control over a whole church.
Right.
No one's the same
Right.
from our church. It's very different atmosphere.
All the relationships
Exactly.
and leaders that you've developed.
And
Not there
so
with you.
when I thought about that, and when Casas asked me that question, because they asked me, I didn't actually think that I was wanting to be a missionary.
Yeah.
But when they asked me, and when I heard that from Pastor Eric, I realized, like, holy cow, like I am comfortable here. I love this church. I love youth group. I love building that relationship with all these students. I love the job that I have right now.
Yeah, we liked you too.
Exactly. And so then that relationship was so hard. I had family here that I had brand new nieces. I'm like, I love these nieces. I want to see them grow.
Yeah.
But yet God was calling me. And I remembered when Pastor Eric told me, it's like, everyone needs to challenge themselves, and there's more faith to grow. And I'm like, man, Pastor, you got to be, the faith has got to be high in your relationship with God because you're a pastor, right? But like, no, he's still needing to grow his faith, challenge his faith, and just learn from it. And so that's where I really resonated to realizing like I was called to do it. But also in Exodus 4:10 with Moses, that whole section, if you read Exodus 4:10 and like through like, I don't know, like the 6 more verses after that, everything right there is me. I'm horrible at words. I'm horrible at like all these little things. Like,
which is why I asked you to do a podcast.
Exactly, right? And I'm like, we're texting. We're like, are you sure you want me to talk in front of that? But I was like, God wanted me to do it because like he was sending someone else to help me and guide me and teach me, but he chose me, and so I had to answer that. And so from having Pastor Eric tell me that we need to grow our faith by challenging our faith, and then on top of reading Moses and reading God, like he was trying to challenge God and say, choose someone else. There's got to be someone else better than who I am. I'm like, I'm the worst one to speak. Like, why are you expecting me to do it? And so then reading that, I'm like, man, like God kind of put me on the corner and said, you have one choice. And I was like, I can't lie. I can't say no to him. And it was a really hard challenge for me because like I didn't have much money going into this ministry. And I said, God, if you really want me here, provide. I need that the providing.
And you had to pay to go.
I move everything and all right, God, let's see what you got. But no, this church here has been an awesome supporter of mine. And they really just trusted me and knowing what I was wanting to do. And I mean, that's a huge sign of who God is. It's like when you do what you need to do, God will provide what you need. And I think that's amazing.
It's fun. Yeah. There's a lot of things I want to touch on after what you're sharing. What I'm thinking about though primarily is there's a lot of different calls in your life. And you know, everyone's lives, our small group members, we're all sitting here, and God's calling us to a bunch of things. Whether it's to be a great mother, father, son, brother, sister, niece, whatever, right? To be loving to those people around us, or if it's just a member of society, right? And to be loving to your neighbors, to be loving to your physical neighbors, to the people who you come into contact with throughout the day, your work associates, all that kind of stuff, and so what we want small groups thinking and leaders and members really thinking is, how are we serving, right? And step back a little bit and think about, what do you need to get there, right? If you can't make that happen yet, how's your devotional life need to be affected? What's missing? The other thing that I love that you hit on is the community at Webster Gardens. While many of us tried to get you to stay and tried to even develop positions and things to get you to stay. Made up opportunities to get you to stay. We also, I think, all supported you in going. Right?
Everyone but you, but yeah.
I helped you in other ways. But I think that community is huge to actually make those steps, and small groups is just a phenomenal, I think, way for that to happen too. So you're asking yourselves maybe 2 questions as a small group to say, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
What's God kind of calling me to do? And then as partners in that group, what do I need from other people in this group in order to be encouraged and supported? And also, what do I need to give back to the others in this group in order to do it? So you guys may choose to do service events together. You may choose to do big rakes. You may choose to, adopt a cause. You may choose to go somewhere, or you may choose to say, hey Nick, I know you've got a bunch of individual things in your life. What do you need to do? Write it down. I'm a huge fan of writing down plans. Write it down, so that I know what it is, so I can clearly support you. And how do I help you? And then I'll write down my thing. So we might do it together, or we might encourage each other to do two separate things. But dude, that community is huge.
It is really huge. I think it's really important to be able to do what you want to do, is to have that relationship with someone else. Is the biggest thing I tell people in my teams is that I didn't do this on my own. There's people that I needed supporting in financial way, prayer life, and just community. And I think that I can't be physically a missionary on my own. And that's where any one of you guys is realizing, like, if you want to serve, you need to be happy on your own and know that you're ready to serve. But that means, do you have that solid foundation in your life that you have mentors, you have guidance, you have friendships, and that is all based on God, realizing God is the overseeing one.
Exactly. And that's why a big thing that we said in these small groups, that we want you to be friends who help you enjoy and follow Jesus.
Oh yeah, because it's really important.
I mean, you got a bunch of friends. You got friends who will go to baseball games, who will go do things with you, but they don't say, hey, how's your faith life going?
Exactly.
And to have people who do both of those things.
That would be amazing.
You enjoy each other. You also mentioned a couple other things, but we don't have time to dig into that. Thanks for listening, guys, and joining us today. Thanks, Nick, for jumping in and being here. We're going to go grab some lunch here in a second.
Oh, yeah.
But you guys have a great rest of the day, and thanks for jumping in.